What's up, everyone? So, the big news out of Comic-Con, at least for Marvel fans, is that Capcom is yet again thinking of releasing some form of patch for the purposes of balancing Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is what the game really needs. The game is pretty broken. It does need some balancing, and it's good that they're still thinking about possibly coming out with something like that. They do go on to say that there's probably no possibility of new content, but the fact that they keep bringing up balancing means that they do want to come up with some sort of patch. So, good for the fans. The game does need it, and so I thought I'd come up with just a combination of all the arguments that I came up with, and this is going to be the top 5 nerfs that maybe should or shouldn't happen to Morrigan in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Number 5. Shell Kick.
That jump is so strong!
Now, to be honest, Shell Kick is probably the second most complained thing about Morrigan, and the only reason why it's so low on this list is because of how strongly I feel it shouldn't be changed. Now, Shell Kick is Morrigan's go-to button. It's her one button that I would consider godlike. It is a godlike attack. It hits 3 times, all 3 hits being an overhead. It's got seemingly an eternity of active frames, lots of hit stun, lots of block stun, even the hitbox is amazing. It protects below Morrigan, a great deal in front of Morrigan, and it can catch people on the back end a little bit as well. Shell Kick is great, but it does have its flaws. For one, it really screws up the damage of any combo you start with it. Even if you go into a TAC Infinite, it takes forever to get kills.
2 hours later. 3 days later. 2,000 years later.
But also, Shell Kick is beatable, and there's actually a lot of different ways you can beat Shell Kick. For one, Shell Kick doesn't protect Morrigan's head very well, so any attacks that come from above, like Dive Kick, Foot Dive, or Helm Breaker, those will all beat Shell Kick really easily. Attacks that trade well, like Hulk's Air S, or Pipe, or Dante's Hammer, anything that has a hard knockdown, that really does a good job at beating Shell Kick as well. Your Shoryus will beat it, other invincible attacks will beat it, projectiles can beat it, Hypers will beat it, you can grab punish it, even physical counters are surprisingly effective against it as well. But the easiest and best way of beating Shell Kick is just to get behind Morrigan while she's doing it. If you get behind her, it's really easy to punish Shell Kick. I think the most important thing to know is that Shell Kick is one godlike attack. When you look at other characters like Virgil or Zero, they have multiple godlike attacks. You take away Zero's Air H, he still has 1,000 ways to mix you up and start combos. Take away Virgil's Helm Breaker, so what? He still has his Rapid Slash, he still has his Round Trip, he still has his Gucci Belt, he still has his Teleport mix-ups, and on and on and on and on. Now, I've seen a lot of suggestions on how to fix, and I'm doing air quotes around the word fix, Shell Kick, and a lot of people don't realize that Shell Kick has to work the way it does for Morrigan to function. And all I really have to do is ask you one question and you'll understand why. How does Morrigan Happy Birthday without Shell Kick?
I don't know.
She really can't. Morrigan needs a way to keep the opponents in the air while she falls to the ground, and there's only 2 ways to do that. One is with a Soul Fist Staircase, which kind of only works against one character. And 2 is with Shell Kick. Capcom's not going to change Shell Kick. Never going to happen. Next topic. Number 4. Hurt Box. Now, this is one of the more fair complaints that I've heard about Morrigan, in that Morrigan's hurt box does get really small when she's in the air. On the ground, it's pretty normal, but when she's in the air, I swear it gets so small. I mean, just look at this example right here. Her hurt box is like the same size as Ryu's head. It's ridiculous. And I guess when you compare her to the rest of the females of the cast, it's pretty much the same. Phoenix is the same way. Her hurt box does get pretty small as well. And with X23 as well, the bottom half of her hurt box just kind of disappears. Like, you can't really hit her legs. Morgan is the same way, and I find it kind of weird that Morgan's wings aren't part of her hurtbox as well. I think that's what's throwing people off the most. They're kind of factoring her wings as part of her body because visually her hitbox looks like one thing, when in actuality it's much, much smaller than that. Almost half the size in certain points. I guess they kind of maybe need to fix her hurtboxes a little bit, because it does feel like it's a little bit ambiguous, and that might be throwing people off. But it is kind of funny to see her just turn into this teeny tiny little ball whenever she's in the air. I mean, I like it because I'm a Morgan player, but it's obviously kind of not fair, I guess. I guess I'll admit that. Number 3. Hidden missiles should disappear when Doom gets hit. I really didn't want to bring this up, but I swear anytime someone utters the name Morgan, Doom always has to follow. It's so annoying. Like, I'll go to a topic at Shoryuken or on YouTube or somewhere online. The topic will be Morgan needs to be nerfed, here's why. And I'll go expecting a coherent argument with solid points and some evidence. No, it's always the same thing. The first post is always to the tune of something like, Morgan needs to be nerfed because of hidden missiles. Stop it! Stop it! No. It's like popcorn and a movie. Separately, those two things are amazing. Popcorn is amazing, movies are amazing. But together, there's just something that makes them better. Like, something about it that makes them both better. But you don't blame the movie for something the popcorn did. Like if you bit into a kernel, chipped your tooth, and had to go to the dentist. You don't blame the movie, no. You blame the popcorn. You blame concession. Don't blame the movie. The movie didn't do anything. It was amazing. But for some reason, people always blame the movie for what the popcorn did. It's so annoying. Stupid popcorn and its stupid hidden missiles messing up our movies. It's retarded. It's dumb. Like, I always ask, like, well, why does Morgan need to be nerfed? Because Doom hidden missiles are broken. No, Doom is broken because Doom hidden missiles are broken, not Morgan. I kind of like what the FGTV suggested in that only the first missile seeks and the other missiles follow that missile. That seems pretty fair. And if you want my opinion on that, I'll probably back them up and have that suggestion. Number 2. Soulfist.
Oh, I'm getting bodied by projectiles on the screen.
You remember Vanilla Sentinel, where most of the balance suggestions came out of pure hate for the character, and where Capcom pretty much listened to all that hate even though most of it wasn't warranted, and it kind of destroyed a pretty good character? I kind of think that's what's happening with Morgan right now. Most of the balance suggestions for Morgan are coming from a place of hate, and they're really doing nothing but nerfing around the problem. I'll give you an example. Recently, when FGTV did their suggested balance changes for Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, they threw around the idea of possibly lowering the durability of Morgan's Soulfist, which sounds like a good idea but isn't, because it's just nerfing around the problem. Really, lowering the durability of Soulfist would do nothing but punish the people who don't use Astral Vision. And is that really who you're trying to target? The people who don't use Astral Vision? I don't think so. If you're going one-on-one against a Morgan who doesn't have Astral Vision up, yeah, lowering the durability of her fireballs will help a lot in that instance. But think about when Astral Vision is up. Is durability really the problem there? Because there's still no way to challenge the fireballs that are coming from behind you. It doesn't really matter what the durability of those fireballs are. They're still going to do their chip damage, they're still going to force you to block, they're still going to force you to move around. They're going to affect the way you play. The only thing it would truly accomplish is it would force players to use Astral Vision, because there's no way that they could rely on their fireballs without it. So essentially, you're just creating more spammers, which is the complete opposite of what you're trying to do with this nerf. Another suggestion that I've seen being thrown around is to lower the damage of Soulfist, which again sounds like a good idea, but it really isn't, because you're just nerfing around the problem. You're not just affecting the spammers, you're also affecting the people that use Soul Fist to combo with. Soul Fist is Morrigan's highest damaging attack, so it's great for combos. The problem with lowering its damage is you're also lowering the amount of combo damage that Morrigan is capable of doing, which is already pretty low. It's already pretty bad as it is. You're essentially wanting to make it worse. Meanwhile, spamming is still going to be pretty effective. You're still going to be able to take out huge chunks of life with Soul Fist if you have Astral Vision up. The only thing I see this nerf accomplishing is it discourages Morrigan players from wanting to combo, which does nothing but create more spammers. Again, the opposite of what you're trying to accomplish with this nerf. So if Shell Kick and Soul Fist aren't really issues in terms of balancing with Morrigan, what is? Well, as you can guess, the only thing that's left is number 1, Astral Vision.
Oh no! It led to the hidden temple.
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
He is running the obstacle course.
Your guide, Kurt Hogg. And here he is now.
Thank you! Thank you very much! Thank you! And thank you, Mr. Olmec. Welcome to the Hidden Temple. The rooms are filled with lost treasures that are protected by mysterious Mayan temple guards. Olmec knows the legend behind each of the treasures in his temple. Which one are we going to hear about today?
The legend of Blackbeard's treasure map.
Well, one of these...
Now, I wanted to make one thing perfectly clear. If I'm being honest, I can totally see Astral Vision being nerfed. But I also find it completely insane just how bad some of the suggestions to nerf Astral Vision have gotten. They're bad, and I don't think people realize just how bad they are. Now, I'll talk about the two major ones. The two major complaints about Morrigan is that she's able to gain meter during Astral Vision, and a lot of people want that nerfed. And 2, they don't want her to be able to chip during Astral Vision. Those are the two big ones. Now, some people want both of these nerfs, others are perfectly fine with just one. Here's why Capcom is never going to implement either of these. And I'll start with the one that's absolutely insane. If you really believe that Morrigan should not be able to chip during Astral Vision, you should probably go to a doctor, because you might be clinically insane. If Morrigan can't chip during Astral Vision, what's the point of Astral Vision? I would argue there is no point now. So why would anybody ever do it? If you assume that your opponent is just going to sit in the corner and block every single fireball you do while your Astral Vision is up, what's the point of Astral Vision? You can't do chip damage, so you're technically still able to get meter back, but it costs a bar of meter for a chance to get meter back. That's what you're spending. You're spending meter for the chance to get meter. Already, that sounds like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But in reality, you can't even get that meter because you're not doing the chip damage it requires to get that meter. You have to do damage to get meter, but since you can't do the chip damage anymore because your opponent's sitting in the corner blocking, you can't even get the meter. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and people actually want that from Morrigan. And the other brilliant nerf idea isn't even that much better. It's still pretty bad. It's still bad enough that it would completely ruin Astral Vision for Morrigan players. Now Morrigan can do chip damage now. She just can't get meter from that chip damage during Astral Vision. Again, we're probably going to assume that the opponent's just going to sit in the corner and just take the chip damage, because that's probably what most players are going to do if this nerf is implemented. Take a good look, because this is what a bar gets you when Morrigan can't gain meter from her chip damage during Astral Vision. I mean, the chip damage is there, but that meter deficit is so not worth it. I mean, there's characters who can do seemingly 10-minute long combos, spend 1 bar and get kills. And then there's this. And all that work too, all those fly cancels, unfly cancels, and fireball motions, and this is all you can hope for? No Morgan player in their right mind would ever go into Astrovision if this is all they could hope to achieve. And this is all they could hope to achieve, because no opponent is going to do anything but sit in the corner, because there's no risk in doing so. It's all reward. There's a huge risk in trying to avoid fireballs. If they fail, they get hit with them, they take damage, they give meter to Morgan. There's no risk in sitting in the corner blocking. It's all reward. I think people just simply need to stop comparing Astrovision to other utility hypers, because it's not like any other utility hyper in the game. Astrovision only works because of its ability to do chip damage and because of its ability to gain meter. Their incentive for the opponent to want to try to avoid fireballs. It simply won't work if you take either of those things away. Basically what it boils down to is either of these fixes would completely destroy Astrovision. I mean, can you imagine if Capcom actually listened to the vast majority of players and actually pushed out these nerfs, these fixes? It's not going to happen. Not in a million years will either of these happen. If you're really trying to cut down the effectiveness of Morgan's spamming ability, then there's really only one nerf that I could ever get behind, and that's to lower the length of Astrovision by 1 to 2 seconds. Anything more than that would be too much in my opinion. But even doing that doesn't seem all that needed. It's weird to say that. I don't even think even that is warranted enough for a nerf, because if you've ever seen what Morgan is capable of during Astrovision without Doom or without assist, it's not that much. If you take a look at this example, this is what Morgan's capable of by herself. It's not that impressive. It's when you start adding the assists, your hidden missiles, your Vajras, your beams, your jam sessions. That's really when the meter gain, the chip damage, the lockdown, the pressure starts getting out of hand. But that's no reason to nerf Morgan. No reason to nerf Morgan. Thanks to everybody who watched this video and listened to me rant for 10-15 minutes. Hopefully you learned a thing or two about Morgan and how she works. I'm just trying to change the landscape of opinion that's on Morgan right now, because the opinion on her is really weird and skewed, and it just isn't warranted. All that hate isn't warranted, because Morgan's a good character. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to argue any points, go ahead and leave it in the comments. And also, if you'd like to check out some of my Chris suggestions for balance, I'll put a link in the annotation. It's not as in-depth as this one was, but there's still some pretty good suggestions that I think Chris could use. So go ahead and check that out if you want to. But until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.